Hi friends, my name is Akhil Ahmed, and in this particular video tutorial I will show you how to handle SCD Type 1 and SCD Type 2 records in SSIS. So the agenda of today's video tutorial is how you can handle the SCD Type 1 and Type 2 records in SSIS. So recently I got a question from one of my subscriber, Sheikh Anif, and I also got the same question from Sandeep. So I thought to make a video on this one. So how many types of slowly changing dimensions are? So there are basically three types of slowly changing dimension. So the first one is SCD type 1, which is also called as changing attribute. SCD type 1 is used to override the existing data into the dimension or destination table with the data from the transactional table, or you can say from the source table. So no history of the existing data is kept in the SCD type 1. Now the second one is SCD type 2, which is also called as historical attribute, and in SCD type 2 this is used to maintain the history of the existing data along with the new data in the dimension table. We can insert a new record for SCD type 2 and we can use start date and end date in the dimension table to identify the active records. A null value in the end date column denotes that's the active record. The last one is the SCD fixed attribute. So the fixed attribute is used if we do not want to change the data for a column over a period of time. For example, if you want a column to remain static over a period of time, then we can use the SCD fixed attribute for such cases. So we will see all the three cases in our demo. So let's jump to the demo. In my SQL Server 2019 instance, I got two databases, FemCell database and FemCell DW, which is also called as data warehouse database. So in the FemCell database, I got a table, customers table, and if you see the data in the customers table, it contains 10,000 records. So we have customer ID, which is also called as a business key, and then we got like customer first name, last name, and other numbers like phone number, fax number, email, and then we got their address components as well, and then the start date. So this is the data in the transactional table. FemCell is a transactional database where the data will be updated or inserted or deleted, and then the same should be happen to the data warehouse database. If I show you the data warehouse database, so in my data warehouse database I got a dimension.customer table, which is a dimension table actually, and at the moment this table is empty, and there are two supporting tables for this one, customer underscore insert and customer underscore update. So the customer underscore update, this will be used for SCD type 1, okay, and customer underscore insert, that will be used for SCD type 2. So I will show you in the SSIS package how we are going to use these tables, and this is our source table in the FemCell database that it contains 10,000 records. So when the SSIS package will run, then it should take care of SCD type 1 fields, SCD type 2 fields, and fixed attribute fields. So for the SCD type 1, for the changing attribute, we are going to make the address field, city, state, and zip, four fields as the SCD type 1 fields. Okay, so if any data got changed into these four fields, then the same data should be updated to the dimension table, dimension.customer table. And similarly, we are going to keep SCD type 2 for these three fields, phone number, fax number, and email. So if any field is got updated with a new data in the transactional database in the source table, then that particular record should be expired in the dimension table, dimension.customer table, and a new record should be inserted. Thus we are going to keep the history of these particular records in the dimension table. And fixed attribute fields are the ones, so all columns except these above columns will be treated as the fixed attributes. So for example, if we change the person's first name or last name, then it will be treated as fixed attribute, and that particular change if we did in the source table, so that particular change should not be done into the dimension.customer table. So let's see how we can achieve all these three things in the SSIS package. So let me open the SSIS package. So this is my blank SSIS package, and first of all let me just drag and drop the execute SQL task into the control flow window, and I will call my execute SQL task as create staging tables, and let me make a connection to the data warehouse database, FemCell data warehouse database. So I already have a connection created here, FemCell DW, so I will select this connection. If you don't have a connection, then you can create a connection to the data warehouse database or to the database where your dimension table exists. Now in the SQL statement, I will write code to create these two tables, these staging tables for the SCD type 1 and the staging table for the SCD type 2. So I already have the tables created here, so let me generate the create table statement from here. And one more thing, I will share all the create table statement, all the data with you. So in my source table, in the customer table, we have 10,000 records. So maybe I will share first 1,000 records for you for your testings. I think that should be enough. And I will share all the create table statement, update queries, everything I will share with you. Okay. So what this particular query will does, it will check if there is a customer underscore update table in a database, then it will drop the table and then it will recreate the table. So let me copy the query from here and let me paste it here. So this is for the customer underscore update table. Okay, and now let me do the same thing for the customer underscore insert table as well, drop and create to. So let me copy the same query from here and paste it here. So now we are just going to drop the customer underscore update table and going to recreate it, and then going to drop the customer underscore insert table and going to recreate it. Now click OK. Now let me just drag and drop the data flow task into the control flow window, and then we can connect the execute SQL task with the data flow task. And here we will actually migrate the data from the source system into the data warehouse system. So we can just configure the data flow task, and our source will be OLEDB source, from where we will actually pull the data from the customer table from the transactional database. So let me configure this particular task, and from the connection we will select the FEMCell connection to the transactional database, and in the data access mode I will select the SQL command, and then let me just close this one, and I will copy this particular query from here, which will return 10,000 records from the customer table from the transactional database. So this will select all the data from the source table, and now we will be using the lookup transformation to check if the data already exists in the dimension table or not. So we will connect the OLEDB source with the lookup transformation, and then we will configure the lookup transformation. Under specify how to handle rows with no matching entries, we will select ignore failure, and then we will click on connection. Now the connection will be made to the data warehouse database, because we will select the data from the data warehouse table, dimension table, and we'll see how much data from the source table that exists in the dimension table. So let me pull the data from the dimension table. So this is our dimension table, dimension.customer. So let me write a select query from here. Right now the table is empty, so let me remove this top 1000 clause, and we also don't need the customer SK, so I can just remove it, and we also don't need the end date, so I can remove it. So we need to select the most up-to-date data, the active records. So the active records will be the one where end date is null. So I can put a clause where end date is null. So this will be the active records in the dimension table. So I can select the query from here and I can paste it here. Now I can go to the columns. In this particular case, the customer ID is the business key. So I will connect the customer ID from input to the customer ID from the dimension table. And then I will select all the columns from here from the dimension table. So on the right side the columns are from dimension tables, and then because the columns from our source table are also with the same name, customer ID, customer first name, and they are also same in the dimension table, so we need to somehow change the alias. For example, I can put dest underscore. So I can put dest underscore for all the fields so that I know which field is from the source table, from the transactional table, and which field is from the dimension table, dimension.customer table. So let me do it for everything. Alright, so I have changed all the fields. Now the left fields are from the source table and the right fields are from the dimension table. Now I can click OK. Now because we want to handle the three type of fields, SCD type 1, SCD type 2, and the new records. So what I need to do, I need to use a conditional split transformation here. So I can just drag and drop the conditional split transformation into the data flow task, and then I can connect the lookup transformations matched records with the conditional split. So from the output we need to select lookup match output, and I can click OK. Now I can configure the conditional split transformation. I can maximize this one. So in the conditional split transformation we need to handle three type of cases, actually 4 cases. The first one is the how we are going to handle the new records. So for example, if a new record got added at the source system, at the transitional system, then how we are going to handle the new record? So if a new record will be added at the source system or at a transactional table, then that particular record's customer ID should be null in the destination table, right? Because we are doing a lookup with the destination table. Our destination table is the dimension table, so the customer ID in the dimension table should be null for the new records. So that will be our first condition. So what I can do, there is a null function here, is null, so I can just drag and drop is null into the condition, and I can just put the dash customer ID here, and I can call it new records. Okay, so what we are doing, that if dash customer ID from the dimension table is null, it means that that particular record was added as a new record into the source table. Okay, so that's our the first condition. Now the second one is the SCD type 1. How we are going to handle SCD type 1 records? So if you go back to the SSMS, so these 4 records are the address, city, state and zip. These 4 fields are the SCD type 1 records. So if anything got changed with these 4 fields, then that particular record should be treated as SCD type 1 record. So what we are going to do, we can just drag and drop address not equal to dashed address. So if address won't be equal to dashed address, then this will become our SCD type 1 record. Okay, but we have other 3 fields as well, so we can put an OR condition here, or city not equal to dash city, or state not equal to dashed state, or zip not equal to dashed zip. Okay, so if any of these 4 fields got changed in the source system, in the transactional system, then the value with the dimension table won't match, and that's why SCD type 1 condition will become true and the data will be moved to the SCD type 1. Okay, now the third one is the SCD type 2. Okay, SCD type 2 means if a phone number got changed in the source system, or if a fax number got changed in the source system, or if the email got changed in the source system, then a new record should be inserted to the dimension table and the existing record should be expired. Okay, so we need to add the condition for all these 3 fields. So let me just add the condition here, that if the phone number got changed, so if phone number from the source system is not equal to the dashed phone number from the dimension table, or if the fax from the source system is not equal to the dashed fax, or if the email from the source system is not equal to the dashed email from the dimension table, then we are going to treat those records as SCD type 2. Okay, and now the fourth one is the fixed attribute. So if a data got changed and if you don't want to change the code in the dimension table, then the easiest method is that we should not write any code. Okay, so we won't write any code for update or insert, so those will become as the fixed attribute. So I think we have written all the 3 conditions here, and now I can click OK. Now we can take 3 OLEDB destinations, the one for the new records and another one for the SCD type 1 record, SCD type 1, and the third one for the SCD type 2 records, SCD type 2. Okay, now I can connect the conditional split transformation with the new records OLEDB destination, and I will select the new records here. I can click OK, and I can right click on it and click on edit, and I will select the FAME cell data warehouse connection. If a new record got added, then we don't need to do anything. We will just insert the record as it is into the dimension.customer table. So I will select the dimension.customer table from here, and then the record will be inserted as it is into the dimension.customer table. So this is the first condition. Now for the SCD type 1, I will select the output as SCD type 1, click OK, and then I can configure this OLEDB destination. The connection will be to the FAMEcell DW database, and we will select the SCD type 1 means the updated customer._update table. Okay, and then I can go to the mappings. So mapping seems good here, it got mapped automatically, and I can click OK. And now the third mapping will be done to the SCD type 2 means the insert customer_insert table, and the output will be SCD type 2, and I can click OK, and now I can configure this particular table. So the table exists in the fame cell DW database, and the table name is the customer underscore insert, because for SCD type 2 we do a insert. And now I can go to the mappings, and the input columns have been mapped with the destination columns, and now I can click OK. So we have done all the settings configuration here, and now I can go back to the control flow, and now let me just drag and drop the execute SQL task, and now let me update data for SCD type 1. Now I can make the connection to this particular execute SQL task. So the connection will be made to the fame cell DW database, because the dimension table exists in the data warehouse database. And now what we need to do here, that we need to update the data from this update table to our dimension table. So I have already written an update statement here, and let me share you the update statement. So what we are going to do, we are going to update the address, city, state and zip into the dimension.customer table from the customer update table based on a join on the customer ID. Okay, because customer ID is the business key, so that's why we are going to update these 4 fields into the dimension.customer table. Okay, and now in the second update statement, we are just going to set the end date for the record that got expired actually. Okay, so in our dimension.customer table with a join on the customer underscore insert table, we are going to do a join on the customer ID, which is a business key, and we are going to set the end date to the current date time where the end date is null. Okay, so we are just going to expire a record. If a record got changed, which is a SCD type 2 record, and that particular record got changed in the source system or in a transitional system, then that particular record, the active record in the dimension, should be expired. That's why how we are going to expire the record, and a new record should be inserted. So let me copy these 2 queries from here and let me paste in the SSIS package, and I will share these 2 queries with you as well. I can click OK. Okay, and now the final step is that the records, those are inserted for the SCD type 2, we need to merge the records, merge SCD type 2 records to customer dimension. Okay, so whatever records got inserted for the SCD type 2, we need to insert into the dimension table. In this data flow task, if you see, we inserted these records to the customer underscore insert table, the SCD2 records. Okay, but we have not yet inserted these records to the main table, the dimension customer table. So that's what we need to do here. So we can just take an OLEDB source here, and in the OLEDB source, the connection will be fame cell DW, and we will select the table from here, customer underscore insert, click OK, and now we will take the OLEDB destination, and in the OLEDB destination, the connection will be made to the fame cell DW database, and we will select the dimension.customer table, and we can check the mappings here. So the mapping seems good here, and I can click OK. So our SSIS package is ready now, and you can execute it, and it should load all data, 10,000 records from source table into the dimension.customer table. So let me check the data in the source table. So right now in the source table we got 10,000 records, and if I show you the data in the dimension table, right now the dimension table is empty. Okay, so let me execute my SSIS package, and this should insert 10,000 records into the destination table. So if you check the data flow task, so 10,000 records got read from the source, and all 10,000 records went to the new records table. Okay, and new records table was the dimension.customer table. So all 10,000 records got inserted to the dimension.customer table. So you can check the data in the dimension.customer table, and we got everything here. Okay, so this seems good. End date is null for all the records, which means that all records are the active records. Okay, if you want to check like what are the active records, so we can write like select star from dimension.customer where end date is null. So end date is null means the record is active. Okay, now let me just test the SCD type 1, SCD type 2 and the fixed attributes. Okay, so let me select the data from the source table. So in our source table, in the femcell.customers table, we are just going to set the address to PO Box 100 where customer ID is 5. So if at the moment if you select the data from the table, so the address is 40 West Noble Way in both the tables. Okay, in the customer table, in the source system, and in the FemCell data warehouse dimension.customer table, in both the tables for customer ID 5, the address is same. Okay, and address is a SCD type 1 records, means the changing attribute. So if, for example, if I update the data into the source system, now what should happen, that the data should be changed to the destination table as well, into the dimension table as well. So now if you check, the address in the source system has been changed, it has been updated in the transactional system, but it is not changed yet into the dimension table. So let me execute the SSIS package, and only one record should be updated. So I'm running the SSIS package. So the package ran fine, and let me open the data flow task, and if you see, 10,000 records got read from the source system, and only one record got went to the SCD type 1. And let me check the data now in the SSMS, so I can just rerun the query, and you can see that the address got changed to the dimension table as well. Okay, so this is how we can manage the SCD type 1 record. So if you change any column, the value will be changed to the dimension table as well. So this was for the SCD type 1 for changing attribute. Okay, now the second one is the SCD type 2, and this is also called as historical attribute. So for example, if you select the data for customer ID 3, the phone number, so at the moment the phone number is same for the customer ID 3 in the source table, the transitional table, and in the data warehouse dimension table as well. And now suppose if I change the data, change the phone number in the source system, then let me show you the data. So now the phone number got changed in the source system, although the phone number is still same in the dimension table. So now what should happen, when the SSIS package will run, a new record should be inserted, and this customer SK3 record, this record should be expired, a current date time should be put here in the end date, and a new record should be inserted with this new phone number, and the end date should be null for that record, so that we can identify that that's the active record. The with end date equal to null will be the active record with the latest data, and this particular record should be expired. So let me just rerun the SSIS package and see how it will work. So now you can see that 10,000 records got read from the source system, and one record got went into the SCD type 2. Okay, and now if I check the data now after rerunning the SQL query, so you can see that for the this was the older record with the older phone number, and this record should have expired. So this record got expired with the current date time information, and the new record with the latest phone number, this record got inserted with the customer SK as 10,001. So this is the up-to-date record, and the end date is null, which means that this is the most recent record and this is the active record. So this is how you can handle the SCD type 2 records. Okay, now the third one is the fixed attribute. So for example, if you want some columns not to change anything, even if the value got changed in the source system, then we can keep those particular columns as fixed attribute. For example, for the customer ID 9, the last name is Larson in both the tables, in the transactional table and as well as in the data warehouse table, dimension table. So let me change the last name to Larry from Larson for the customer ID 9. So let me execute the query. So the data got changed into the source system Larry, but the data has not changed into the dimension table. And even though I will execute my SSIS package, the customer last name should not change, because this is a fixed attribute and this should not change. Okay, so let me just try to rerun the package, and the data should not change here because the customer first name and last name is a fixed attribute. So you can see that 10,000 records got read from the source, and none of the record got inserted to the either new records table or SCD type 1 or SCD type 2. Okay, and now let me just rerun this query, and the data should be unchanged. So you can see that even though we updated the data into the source system, and still the data into the dimension table is same. Okay, so this is how we can handle the SCD type 1, SCD type 2 and the fixed attributes in SSIS. And yeah, I will share all these query with you, so maybe you can create your SSIS package and test it with the data, and maybe I will share 1000 records out of 10,000 records. Alright, thank you guys for watching the video, and if you like the video, then please click the like button, do subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon and click on all so that you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much.